It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay, Jason Snell, all in the house. Jason already has iOS 18.1 featuring Apple Intelligence. He'll talk about what it's like and why you probably aren't going to be getting it until after the new iPhone comes out. We'll also talk about the first Apple Store going union. Never thought that would happen. And Apple TV Plus. Are ads in its future? All that and more coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 932, recorded Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. iPhone says what? It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show we cover the latest news from Apple. And we are doing this today in a new fashion, getting ready for a whole new regime, Twit 4.0, I think we will call this. So we are using, today we're using our new setup with Zoom ISO and eCam. And John Ashley is pretending to be at home, but he's actually just down the hall. but he's got a home computer set up, and this may look a little different, maybe a little weird. We'll see. The biggest thing most people will notice if you're watching videos, the lower thirds have somehow become lower 18ths. That's just the way it's going to be. I think otherwise it should sound the same, and it should pretty much look the same. Let me introduce the panel. You hear Andy Anako from the library. Andrew, good to see you. WGBH in Boston.
Very good to be here.
Nice to see you.
It feels like you're like he's in the lunar sim, like the Apollo program, like where they were going through he's actually on base, but actually we're pretending that he's like 100 miles from lunar landing. Yeah, I'm
in a centrifuge right now in my my jaw. This is preparatory to me taking the whole thing home and shutting down the studio, which is still on schedule for a week from Thursday. So our first Twit will be August 11th out of the Attic studio, the new Attic studio, using this technology. And the reason we're kind of trying this is because I will not be the technical director. Our producer John Ashley will be the technical director and producer, as he has been. He just won't be in a TriCaster. He'll be in a setup at his house. So we'll see. This I think it should work, and it will save us umpteen millions of dollars. So that's a good thing. Jason Snell. And by the way, you're all doing it, so why shouldn't I? Jason Snell's in his beautiful home studio.
Hello, Leo. Hello, Andy.
Jason.
Hello, Alex. This is told by diesem ganz normalen Podcast dabei zu sein, der so wie immer. Wait a second.
Oh my God.
Sorry. I had
you're only
German
traveling
on
for a week.
I thought we were changing the show to German. What happened? I didn't get the
Twit
memo.
5.0. That'll be
Okay.
Nice
All
to
right.
see you, Jason. Jason, are you?
No.
So you're going to be coming to the last show in the studio, or one of the last shows. In the studio,
I think I'm going to Twit on Sunday.
A week from Sunday, yeah, or this Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Gosh,
so.
it's weird. Yes, this Sunday. And in fact, that's going to be the very special Vision Pro version. Alex Lindsay was in-house last Sunday and took some pictures, and it all
we did a stream test.
Good.
We had a handful of people watching on Vision Pros, and they all gave it a big thumbs up, said it looked good. So so I was trying to figure out framing, and then working with John and Burke on just the interface stuff, because we want to get a solid program into the phone and everything else. And so everything seems to be pretty well set up. So we're pretty excited about Sunday.
And you have asked my team to make this more three-dimensional. So we'll have live people in studio, but we will also have stuff on the table to kind of give it 3 dimensions.
The thing that makes 3D really feel good is to have lots of stuff in the foreground so that you can see stuff. So I was like, hey, if we can find, we don't want to make it crazy or messy, but if you have a couple things, I know we looked at it. So we were like, if we throw a couple things in there, it'll give it a little bit more muchness.
Well, more muchness is on its way. My team is gathering the muchness.
Excellent.
And we'll be spreading it.
Yeah, exactly. Show title, Gathering the Muchness.
Spreading the muchness all over my studio. Apple. Oh, Apple. Well, the big story, I guess, I don't think it's that big a story. I think it's kind of what we thought. Mark Gurman on Sunday said Apple is not going to release Apple Intelligence with the new iPhone, they're going to release it in an 18.1 version, maybe in October. That doesn't surprise me somehow. Maybe I should be.
Yeah, remember that when they went through it, there was a lot of avoidance of specific dates, and with a lot of the specific features of Apple Intelligence, particularly the enhancements to Shlomo, where it understands like all of the data that you've been giving it. They said that that's going to be coming next year anyway, so that's not terribly surprising. I actually thought I saw that 18.1 dropped for developers today and this week, and it had a lot of Apple Intelligence features. Yeah, but none of the like those advanced things. I think was it Mark Gurman or might be someone else who said it's probably going to be not till 18.4 sometime in the spring.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here, right? We're used to these betas. I mean, there's two betas happening now. There's 18.0 and 18.1, and they're happening simultaneously. And is 18.1 just 18.0 with Apple Intelligence turned on? Sounds like it is until Apple tells us otherwise. I couldn't get a straight answer from them about whether that's the case. I think that is probably the goal. So they did ship this 18.1. If you're in you can change over. It'll actually give you a thing saying, do you want to be on the 18.1 beta instead? It's developer beta only for now. Unclear whether they will flip that over to the public beta or not. And then you have to actually ask to join Apple Intelligence and are added to the wait list. Although Apple says right now it'll just take a matter of hours, but it makes you wonder if they have built in a wait list system in order to protect themselves in case they're overwhelmed with requests, so that on their cloud services stuff, so that they can gate that a little bit.
Mac Rumors had a really good. I love Mac Rumors because they had two articles like side by side. Here are all the Apple Intelligence features in 18.1, and the next article, here are all the Apple Intelligence features that are not in 18.1, and the stuff that's out. No image playground, no Genmoji, the image wand, the things that inserts images into notes, prioritizing notifications based on what they know about you, mail categories, all the stuff about photos, the enhanced Shlomo, ChatGPT is not there, additional languages beyond US English is not there, and it says here additional platforms. I'm quoting them as Apple said in its WWDC coverage of Apple Intelligence, the Apple Intelligence feature set will eventually expand to additional platforms. No, not additional platforms as yet.
Yeah, it's funny. They're really. I wonder, Leo. I mean, my assumption is your assumption, which is 18.0 will happen in like maybe September, and then this will follow in maybe October. I wouldn't put it past them to change the setup a little bit, and maybe I wonder if what they're trying to do is get an 18.0 that's sort of standard. Since look, let's face it, Apple Intelligence is the most important thing in this entire cycle. I wonder if they're trying to prep a really simple 18.0 that can also be for the entire world, because the entire world is not going to get Apple Intelligence, right? Europe's not going to get it, and it's limited to US English. I wonder if they might try to put that out actually even sooner, even if it's just early September or late August, and then try to get that 18.1 out the door as quickly thereafter so that they can get that on new iPhones as quickly as they can. Because remember, they've got to start loading software on the iPhone, even though they can update it through the box using their magic little tool that they have that we've talked about. You want to build of 18.0 on the new iPhones as you're building them at the factory before they go out the door. So I wonder if the goal here really is to get a usable 18.0 done while all the Apple Intelligence stuff kind of gets baked in for the next step. But yeah, right now, as of yesterday, if you get the developer beta, you get writing tools, you get a bunch of Siri stuff, the more resilient Siri, where if you make a mistake and correct yourself, it understands it. It's got conversational context. It's got the contents of the Apple product database, which means if you ask it how to do something on your device, it will be able to generate a response based on Apple's own documentation. It's got the new interface. It's got some voice updates. And then they added in apps like Mail gets their priority messages and their summaries and their smart replies. Photos gets the natural language search and the memory movie via text, but it doesn't get that background erase. Like that's still hanging out there. That new focus mode that uses machine learning to break through things that are relevant and not anything else, that's in there, along with the summary, summaries and messages, summaries for transcriptions out of notes and the phone app that you've made recordings of. All that stuff is in there. So there's a pretty sizable number of things that are in there.
And I think that I fully expect all the features that Apple announced to be absolutely done by the end of next May. because they don't want to go to the next WWDC with things hanging over it. But I think that we'll see a trickle of this. I think that Jason's right. Is that we'll see a couple things that will drive phone sales, but may not be. But I think the more complete features, I would expect them March through May of next year to be like slowly finishing off all the last little bits of things that they had promised to make sure that they don't go to WWDC without some version of at least a minimum viable product of each one of those released, and then they can talk about where they're going from there.
Yeah, and when you think about it, this is going to be one of the most confusing updates Apple's ever done, because they're shipping iOS 18. It's not going to have all the features that they promised, and that got a lot of press. Even when they do ship it with all those extra features, not everybody is going to have hardware that can run it. And even if you have hardware that can run it, there might be added expenses or added quirks to make sure you can actually do it. Like it seems as though the era of one OS for just about everybody is coming to an end.
So, Jason, you have the developer, I presume, 18.1?
Yeah, I've got
you
them.
have it on
I installed them yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of reasons why it would make sense that Apple might want to slow roll the intelligence. They've watched as Google and OpenAI and Microsoft have rushed these things out to their sometimes detriment. And Apple, I'm sure, really wants to be safe. They don't want any egg on their face. So I think this makes sense. In other words, the product, I would say, is probably ready or close to ready. But Apple is rolling it out now to try it on you guys for safety. See what you can do to mess it up. And then, of course, there's the issue of bandwidth and use and so forth.
I think it's both. I think it's both, right? They started this project so late that I'm sure there's stuff that's just not ready. But also, I do think that the stuff that is ready, you can see it. They put it out now in a developer beta, and the message is really clear, which is this is beta, this is early, please don't be mean to us, please don't judge us too harshly.
Right.
We're working on it. This is our first step here. And with the message of like you have to sign up and the fact that it's a developer beta, they're trying to really limit the scope, limit the number of users, see how it goes, see how people respond, and then kind of like gradually open it up over time. So I do think they're being careful, because you're right, there are a lot of landmines out there. And when you're under the cloak of a beta, right, you can say, look, we said it's beta. We said it's developer beta even. How many caveats do we need on this thing? It's not final. I think that all protects them. But there's also a whole bunch of stuff that I think is just not there, and that they're not ready to show to the masses yet, because it's just too early. And that's okay, because they will. Yeah, there's not just 18.1 and 18.0. There will be 18.2 in late fall, and an 18.3 in February probably, and like an 18.4 in April, and an 18.5 right before WWDC next year. I mean, and I think all of them will probably have substantial new features. So it really is the final. They've been, like Andy said, they've been pointing this way for a while, but we really are in the sort of like iOS 18 means the whole year, not a thing that happens in September and then we wait a year.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see a line between, they'll probably put out the stuff that can run locally on device quickest, and the stuff that they need to push to their own servers is going to take longer, I'm imagining. I'd love to know, like, what stage are they at and just actually building the compute centers that they need with all like their custom silicon, because it was one thing when we were imagining that, well, maybe they'll just use like Google Cloud to host all the stuff that they can't do on device, in which case everything's already built. They just got to write the checks. They have to buy land for this. That's what these features are like. So I think we're going to see a division between the stuff that they can run locally and the stuff that's going to be powered by widgets from on high.
Did they ask you, Jason, when you did the developer beta for intelligence, did they say things like try to break it? Did they say try to jailbreak it and things like that?
The impression I got was just they're not welcoming that, but they want. I think they want everybody to know. Like, first off, the reason for developer beta, the official reason, is they want developers, who are very technical, to try it out and give feedback. And implied in that is also sort of advanced users in the press and all of that. I think it's very much, we want you to see it, we want you to give us feedback, but also please understand that it's a work in progress. And that is why we want feedback, they say. And that is also, shields them a little bit from things that don't quite work right. Although, I tried some of it this morning, some of the writing tool stuff. I mean, writing is very near and dear to me. And I got to say, I've been using Grammarly to do some checks, especially since I don't have a copy editor on Retainer and the web, it's quick turnaround. And it was similar to that, right? Like it's the same thing where writing my blog posts in Markdown in a particular style, a lot of grammar and style checkers get a little confused, but it also found stuff that was good that I would have accepted. And so, it's a mixed bag, but like, that's a great feature to be able to have a really legitimate ML-based copy edit pass that's just baked into every device, for example. That's a really nice feature, and it just worked in text edit on the Mac. It's going to be everywhere where there are standard text controls when you bring up writing tools. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many of these text manipulation features they're like the cut, copy, and paste of the Macintosh back in the 80s, where you can't do something as complicated as the Mac, but just the idea of having these three basic features that are so easy to implement will immediately create benefits for everybody. So as you say, the ability to say, here is a bunch of text, please summarize it for me. Or could you spot like any editing problems in here? Or I want this to be shorter, or I want the tone to be more formal, or what I've been using. So I really think that if you had a pie graph of how long it takes me to write like 1,000-word thing, 20% of it is writing, 80% of it is trying to figure out what the title should be. And the ability to say, just give me like 5 titles for this. And even if I don't use any of them, I'll say, okay, that one's closer to what I want. And it's done.
That's what I use the chat room for, by the way. The chat room is really good for that. I guess I have my own little real intelligence.
Yeah. And again, I don't think Apple's in any rush. I don't think they need to be.
Sure.
I think they've got a pretty, they have a long history of starting late, moving slow, and then just slowly plowing through. And so,
but do they have a plan for avoiding the egg on their face that Google and
I think that they've kind of protected themselves a little bit. We'll see what the on device and their own cloud is going to keep on growing, and I think it's going to be much more controlled than the other. And then they have a release valve, which is all the other stuff, the ChatGPT to start with, but potentially Gemini and many other ones. And so they have this little release valve of like, there's all this crazy stuff out there, and you can still use that. We're not saying you can't use it on an Apple device, but we're going to keep on building things that are a lot on your device and a lot on. And I think that eventually, probably years from now, Apple, the on-device and their private cloud will probably be what 90% of the people want to use 90% of the time, and everyone's going to feel like, and they're all inside of that little protected enclave, and it's all much more stable. And then you can always go out into the outside of the garden to go grab things that are more volatile. And so I think that it's the kind of solution only Apple can do. And that's what they like to do, is do things that it would be very hard for somebody else to execute. And that's what I think that they're kind of grinding towards. And I think it's a pretty useful solution, but it'll take a lot of work and effort and money to get caught up, and that creates a moat for them.
Yeah.
Did they say, do we know, is this their LLM? It's not anybody else's.
This
LLM.
is theirs. This is their model. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
They published a tech paper on Monday alongside 8.1 that really gets into more of the details on here's how we built it, here's how we trained it, here's what all from technical stuff that you need to know a lot of math to understand, to just simple things like here's what we got the data from, here are the languages that our coding model can deal with, here's how we tested it. And so this is absolutely 100% their own work.
They say they took the responsible approach as opposed to everybody else. And by the way, we really are learning how
our goal is to assure these model capabilities are aligned with Apple's core values and principles, including our commitment to protecting user privacy and our responsible AI principles. Unquote.
Yeah. Okay, good. And so from your limited time with it, Jason, do you know when it's on device and when it's going out to the cloud? Does it announce that, or
it doesn't announce it? You can't really tell, although you may be able to guess, but you don't really know. I saw somebody say that they were analyzing it, and it looked like on the iPhone all the requests were going to the cloud, and on the Mac, all the requests were running locally. But I don't know if that is true, and I don't know if that will remain true throughout the process. But it is one of the funny advantages that Apple has here is that they've got compute power on their devices. So somebody in the members Discord was asking, like, what if this costs Apple a fortune in server? And Andy was mentioning real estate. Right. The advantage Apple has is a lot of this stuff they will be able to do on device and they won't need servers for it. But there is the private cloud compute stuff. They are going to have to watch that. There are so many iPhone users that even if they gate this and put a waiting list on it, like they are going to be riding a, bucking bronco when this thing launches. They're going to have to manage it really closely. But it sounds like, early reports are that most of these things are just running on the device on the Mac, and the iPhone maybe not, but we don't know.
Yeah, 9to5Mac has a piece that says that there's actually an Apple Intelligence Report feature that you can access on the phone. Nice. Mac, a new Apple Intelligence Report made a menu within the privacy and security settings. By going there, users can export a report on their interactions with Apple Intelligence. So it says you can specify the duration of the report. So please tell me what kind of interactions how did you process things for the past 15 minutes? And there's even a warning underneath that saying that if you ask us for this report, then that might include personal data such as messages that text you enter in intelligent writing tools. So yeah, they remember that one of the big keystones that they were saying during the announcement was that not only XYZ, AA, BC, but also that we want to make sure that we're transparent, not only to researchers who might want to see if we're keeping our promises, but also to the users, which is one of the reasons why I think in a previous beta, am I mistaken, where there's or was just a screenshot that was shared saying that if you're using Apple Intelligence, then it'll just simply process the request. If it's processed by OpenAI, you get like a little warning saying, "Hey, if you want to send this to OpenAI, that means that we will be not responsible for the integrity of that data. Do you want to proceed?" So as long as you leave the user in control, that seems like they're doing an exceptional job.
One of the things other AI companies are coming up against is complaints that they are using content from sites without permission. I just saw a piece that said that Anthropic, when it's blocked in robots.txt for their LLM Claude, they won't change the name of the crawler so they can get through. Yeah. Reddit got $60 million from Google for using our data on Reddit. And they are aggressively block everybody else.
All other search engines.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So we're getting in this kind of Wild West where people are breaking the rules and content companies are responding by saying, In the Apple white paper, they say specifically, we go to lengths to identify and license a limited amount of high quality data from publishers. Apple's been accused, by the way, of using that big data set that had transcripts from YouTube channels and so forth. So this is their response. The licensed data sets provide a natural source of diverse and high quality long context text. So we include them as part of the data mixture for the continued and context lengthening stages of pre-training. I love this line. Yeah. We decontaminate sections of publisher licensed data the same way we decontaminate web pages. Yeah. The implication is they're not using unlicensed stuff, but they don't come out and say that.
No. I think it's clear they are using unlicensed stuff and licensed stuff. And I find that amazing, right? Because they're saying, we think licensing is important, but also we didn't do it, which is, I think they did it out of desperation. But I'll say my job is to create content on the internet, and Apple didn't come to me and negotiate with me for my content, but apparently they used it. So I don't know what that's about, right?
Does that make you salty? I mean, is that upsetting?
Yeah. I mean, they asked for forgiveness instead of permission, right? They said they created they disclosed their new AppleBot Extended after the fact, after they'd already done all the work, and said, you can block this if you want to. And it's like, okay, guys, right? Like, yeah, but you didn't tell us you were doing it. And the fact that they're licensing some kind of, I think in the long run, they would like to build a model based on licensed content, and they just haven't been able to do it, whether that's time or that it's just not expedient. I do think that has been a hedge. Like, making all those deals for high quality content. If it turns out that some court says you can't just rip things off the web and build a model on them, Apple has this thing in their pocket, which is they've got a license to use the New York Times and a whole bunch of other content sources that are legally licensed.
There's a section here on data, and it says, we respect the right of web pages to opt out of being crawled by Applebot using standard robust.txt directives. So hopefully that means that they're not going to do the same kind of shenanigans, and explicitly saying there's no private Apple user data included in the data mixture. And then also saying that, we are getting data from public sources and also licensed sources, but that they're also making efforts to exclude profanity, unsafe material, and personally identifiable information from that publicly available data. So
it's a fine balancing act, isn't it, for Apple? This in some ways runs contrary to their longstanding, belief in privacy and at least their marketing.
But that's a good thing. Like, how many times have any of us been in that position where it's like, I really want to, like, this company is saying, no, please. It would cost more money to ship it back to us. Please keep that really nice laptop you really like and you reviewed. And like, I made a big honking deal out of it's not ethical to take freebies from companies that I write about. Damn it, I got to hold myself by my own standards. And it's good that Apple is holding themselves up to their own standards.
Yeah. And it's challenging. I think, people at the same time as they say, I don't want you to crawl my stuff, are also saying Siri is such a dope. And there's a little bit of a trade-off. John Gerard in our Club Twit Discord has been playing with the new Siri. He said, I asked Siri last night to show me on Apple TV Plus some comedy movies. It worked. I then asked Siri to play X movie on my TV. Done. I then asked Siri to FaceTime my sister. Done. But he also tried to have Siri play the movie over SharePlay with his sister, and it couldn't do that. So some improvement. He says, I think it's really good now, at least 1,000% better than the old Siri. Has that been your experience? I mean, you've just had it for a day, Jason.
Yeah, it's too early to tell for me. It seems better, but that's all I can really say.
1,000% is a lot of percent.
I had Siri set a timer for me yesterday, and it worked perfectly. Primarily what I use it for. Last night I did ask it. I asked it, when is the sunrise tomorrow, and it answered very accurately. I think the issue, all I'm pointing out is that a lot of times people have expectations that are way higher than what the system is designed for. And I find that, we use Siri every single day, in the kitchen for lots of things, timers and questions and basic things and playing music. And I think a lot of times people have unrealistic expectations of what it should do. And I think that we've been pretty happy with what it does do. And it'll be interesting to see it get better, but I guess I just don't, I'm always like, it never shows up like Siri is a failure to me, because I've just figured out what it's good at and I just do those things that it's good at. But I have a tendency to be a little practical that way.
Yeah. Stability wise, Jason, is it worth taking the chance to try this developer version?
I would say it feels just as stable as the 18.0 thread does, because really all they're doing is taking
right. They're just adding
Apple
layer.
Intelligence features on top of it.
Icing on the cake.
It's been a pretty easy beta so far. I haven't put it on any of my primary devices, but I haven't had any catastrophes either.
I'm using it on my phone, and I will say that I found there's a funny thing in news right now that some articles, specifically the Wall Street Journals, for some reason, you click on it and that means close without warning. It doesn't, there's no warning. There's nothing, it just disappears. So you're like, and it's the same article. It'll be the same, like there was an article yesterday or whatever. And I just kept on going back to it all day going, I wonder if this will crash it. And I hit it and it's gone. I was like, oh,
wow.
There's some little, there are definitely bugs, and it was repeatable. I just don't even know on a phone how to report that. Like from where I'm at, so
you shake it really, really, really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And swear
do they
at
still
it.
do that?
Siri
no,
goes,
they used to be. You shake it really hard.
Really hard. You get feedback.
They used to be. I don't know.
I know. Usually that's undo if you shake it.
Yeah. Oh, maybe
but I haven't tried it. Maybe if I shake it harder.
They have that feedback app.
Yeah,
so I've had a few little weird things. I don't even know if it's 18 on my iPhone. I'm using it on my phone. Seems to work all right. Every once in a while I'm dictating, the word will repeat. I think they fixed that. Otherwise it seems fine. I haven't lost calls anyway. Not that I care. to be perfectly frank. All right. So maybe you should try it. This is for iOS 18 and iPadOS 18. Is that correct?
Yes, and macOS Sequoia.
Sequoia also has it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. There is an update to Sonoma 17.6 that I'm excited about. I can now use 3 monitors on my my Mac M3 laptop. They've added a dual monitor support.
Very nice.
Who knew they could do that? It's kind of magical.
Somebody at Apple,
it was a hardware
apparently.
thing. Yeah. And then we talked about that, didn't we? You said there's somebody at Apple who has this.
Yeah.
I finally convinced them to put it in the update. All right, let's take a little. Yeah. Let's take a little break. We'll come back with lots more from our lovely team, and special thanks to John Ashley, who is manfully struggling with the new system and doing a great job. John, it's fantastic. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is our we're on a little shakedown cruise, a little training here on the system that will be part of MacBreak Weekly going forward in 2 weeks. Our show today brought to you by Now we're going to try something. Let's see what happens here. Brought to you by ZocDoc. Yay, it worked. Oh, I tell you what. When you need a doctor, right? But it's not one of those things you really want to compromise on. With ZocDoc, you can get the doctor you need. You're not at the roulette wheel. There's some things in life it's okay to, be a crapshoot. Like, I don't know, trying a new type of milk in your coffee. Don't. Just take it from me. Or a cheap Instagram ad impulse buy. Or gas station sushi. They know me. They know me so well. I feel like this ad is written for me. You shouldn't be doing that when it comes to finding the right doctor. With ZocDoc, it's not, because you've got more options than you know. ZocDoc is a free app, but you can also do it on the website. In fact, try it first on the website, see how you like it, where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and instantly click and book an appointment. What? Yes, right away. We're talking about in-network appointments in your insurance network with more than 100,000 healthcare providers. And I'm talking every specialty, not just MDs, but dentists, chiropractors, mental health, eye care, skin care, and so much more. I love ZocDoc. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, who are located nearby, who are a good fit for any medical need you may have. But here's the thing I really like. You can also check verified patient ratings and reviews. That's spectacular because, every doctor has a different style, and it's a great way to check ahead of time to see if this person fits your needs, if they're good, if they know what they're doing. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. So if you're in need, you can get help right away. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments. That's something we guys do. I'll just rub some dirt on it. Go to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. ZocDoc. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. Try it on the web or get the app. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. We thank him so much for supporting MacBreak Weekly. Apple did say we should mention that they are going to voluntarily adopt the AI safeguards that the Biden administration has proposed. I guess you have the choice. The administration announced on Friday that Apple is joining OpenAI, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, and Microsoft, saying they will test their AI systems for any discriminatory tendencies, security flaws, or national security risks. In the white paper, there's a whole section on red teaming, which feels like something Apple hasn't, in the past really been a big focus group / red teamer, but this time they're taking it pretty seriously.
It's kind of basic stuff. It's all, as you said, it's all voluntary. As you said, they agree to do red teaming before they release and share the data with other researchers, treat unreleased model weights confidentially as they're working on them, work in secure environments, and participate or help develop a content labeling system so that generative AI like videos and pictures are going to be labeled and identified. The administration themselves say this is just a start, but better than nothing.
They need Congress. If they're going to really have regulation with teeth, they're going to need Congress to pass a law. Congress is busy. They the Senate just passed COSA and COPPA. They're busy doing the people's work, I guess. So there isn't a whole lot of rush in Congress to regulate AI. The White House guidelines are not enforceable. The only teeth they have is they say, if you don't submit to this testing, you will not be eligible to be purchased by the federal government. They do control that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have mixed feeling. I don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is that that incumbents, have the advantage here because they've already been building this stuff, and so they've got an advantage over, startups that might do something new, and so that's why a lot of the larger companies are like, yeah, we like it, let's all pledge to this, and then they're like, we've got a moat, so now this and AI may not have a lot of natural moats, and maybe the regulation will do it, but Apple, I feel like Apple wants to play ball, wants to say we're doing it right. And when they have these moments like training on data that everybody else is training on, but feels a little creepy or a little bad to, internet creators, I just get the distinct impression that they'd rather not do it, but there are lines that they're crossing because, like you said, they have to thread a needle here. So having them say, sure, safe AI, we're for that that fits with Apple.
Sure.
That's their
why wouldn't they?
Yeah. Also be super suspicious if they didn't. And the only reason they held off this long was because when this was first, I think it was back in October when the first gang joined, and of course all the people you've heard of, companies you've heard of, joined it. Apple couldn't announce it because they couldn't admit that they were working on Apple Intelligence at that point. But this is the right point to do it. And like I said, if they had, there was no reason for them not to participate. And if they didn't,
if we were going to do AI, we would probably agree to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. They hadn't announced. They didn't, according to the research paper, sounds like you read it, Andy, they did not mention NVIDIA. They said they trained on Google's tensor chips.
Yeah, they said I don't have the section in front of me, but they did specify the TPUs they're using. And yeah, the fact that they mentioned Google's chips but did not mention NVIDIA, it shouldn't necessarily mean that they are excluding NVIDIA, but maybe at this stage, given that it's early stages, we know that they're buying a lot of compute power from Google for training these models. And maybe at this point, they're going to go with what they know and go with what they've been working with. So, but there's nothing in the paper that indicates that they couldn't use the NVIDIA platforms if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But they do seem to be very, very married to Google at this stage. That's
Isn't that interesting? It used to be frenemies or worse.
Google is writing them checks for $20 billion.
Right, that's true.
What you could do is write them some checks back.
It's a nice friend. Yeah,
but they are like still like definitive. Their cloud business is doing extremely well. They had their earnings call last week, and it's doing extremely well. They're getting a lot of business, but they're still like really definitely number 3 behind Amazon and Microsoft in terms of cloud compute. So, and Microsoft definitely has the ability to give them kind of what they want, but. So I think it's kind of interesting. I think it's a cultural thing.
This is that time of the year. The quarterly reports. Apple's will be this week. Jason's firing up the
Thursday, I think. Yeah,
the colored ink printer.
Spreadsheet and charts again. Yes. Yeah. Hey Shlomo, build me some charts.
Hey, it won't. Exactly. I'm surprised you haven't automated that. Or do you
I've automated it. I've automated a lot of it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You're not drawing those squares by hand. You're not.
I have a script that rips the numbers out of the PDF, and then I just paste it into numbers.
Nice.
And then I have a script that generates the actual image files from the.
Did you write that yourself?
Yes, I did.
In Python or Excel or?
Oh, are you going to make me say it? It's
PHP?
I think it's an Apple script.
Apple script. That's all right. No, I respect somebody who can use Apple script.
I love the fact that at every level, tool development is exactly the same. I don't know this was built so long ago and maintained, but for so long that I no longer really know what technology is under this. We only know that it works, and we don't want to poke the bear.
I created a version of it because I was on a trip when a few years ago when the I think it was 6 years ago when the results came out, And that was in my period where I was really trying not to travel with a laptop. The laptops weren't very good and the iPads were great. And I rebuilt my whole workflow in Shortcuts, and it does work. I'm usually sitting at my desk on my Mac, and the Apple script is faster and it already works. So I use that. And I think the one that parses the PDF is a shortcut where it's actually like taking Apple's results PDF, turning it into text, detecting which ones are the numbers I need, which is super brute force, like take line 18, 20, 21, 22, and 25, and then put it on the clipboard, and then you paste it in. So it's, every little bit. I mean, I do that, 4 times a year?
4 times a year.
It seems like it seems like it's worth doing it. So we'll see what they say, right? This is going to be one of their quieter quarters, but there's always some detail about how iPhone sales are going, or how services are growing, or how, new Mac sales, or the iPads that came out. Does the iPad get a boost here? And how do people feel about that? That's, in some ways it's more about those clues about how the different products are doing than anything else.
I'm really curious to see how they address China, because that's been the top of the financial news for Apple for the past 6 months, that they are just going down, down, down. Huawei is going back up, up, up. They're recovering from all the problems that the trade war has had against them, and their inability to get access to the chips they want and the manufacturing that they want. And every time you see, again, that's like every second or third one is either some sort of antitrust thing, or it turns out that Apple is now like the number 4, number 5, number 6 phone in China. Huawei had like a 22 or 23% increase year over year, and Apple has not been doing stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And it's always fun, as I always say, the fun part of this is that we get this is the second kind of venue in which we get to hear like sort of a State of the Union. The first is, of course, WWDC, but the other is every quarter, where they have to give these earnings results, but they also want to tell investors and analysts, here's what we're about, here's what our focus is, here's what's driving our success right now, here's what we think is going to drive it in the future. And there's a Q&A for which I don't think that they get the questions beforehand. And if they are it's not just they can't lie. If they are misleading in any way, if they omit something that investors think that they should have, they get tagged hard by the SEC and investors. I think that a few months, was it last year, that Tim Cook got tagged by investors for $500 million because they thought that you were asked directly about China like last year, the year before, and you said that everything's going fine, even though you kind of knew that everything wasn't going fine. You're gonna have to pay for that. So that's why it's kind of interesting. You hear people have to you never hear a place where these C-level executives are potentially in a place to sweat, and this is where it happens.
And are the questions wide open to the shareholders, or is it because some companies have a couple analysts that ask all the questions?
Yeah, so that's what this is. There's a usual suspects of analysts. They are financial industry analysts. Tech journalists are not on the call. Shareholders aren't on the call. And Andy's right. They don't know what the questions they are, and they're not given to them, but they can anticipate it based on. They know what the question.
It's like preparing for a debate.
Well, this is the thing: is they choose the people, and the people know that if they ask something probably too far out there, they won't really get invited back. That doesn't stop them. One of my favorite things about those calls, because they can be a little dry, it's financial call, is that moment where there's something that happens, and it's like, so, Tim, any color about what the new iPhone is going to be? Tell me now. And they're like, what are you? Are you high? No, but they try. They do try. I don't want to know about a future product, Tim. I just want to know, if an iPhone were to be released in the fall, what would it be like? Right? And it's like, no, don't do that. What are you trying? But they do. Sometimes their questions are good. A lot of them are pretty standard. Over the last few years, Apple has anticipated them to the point where now I think they mostly have scripted answers, and it's not as clear as it used to be.
And it's not video. Is it just audio?
Just
still?
audio.
Yeah, because what you don't see on the other end, I haven't seen Apple's, but I've worked on other quarterlies that some of them are video, some of them are not. And what you don't, with some companies, it is an array of monitors that are out in front of them. That is, because there's a whole staff there that is constantly pulling up the salient points and the math and everything else. So it's not just, think that they're just sitting there on the phone in a conference room staring at it and answering it off the top of their head. there's a staff of 20, 30 people on the back end that are pushing data to the C-suite to answer those questions with the data that they have.
Yeah, it's very clear they've got a lot of the questions, the answers end up being restatements of things that have come before. However, it's like mining, it's panning for gold. If you ask the right question, you may get them to give you a tidbit that they didn't give you in their prepared remarks. But it used to be, back in the day when Tim Cook was on these calls and Steve Jobs would rarely appear, right? There was that period in there where it was sort of like, oh, Steve's here. Ooh, that back in that period, they'd make a statement and it would be like 5 minutes. And then there would be 55, because it's an hour, 55 minutes of questions. And there'd be a lot more kind of back and forth. And they would dig out the color from that. That was the whole thing. They asked for more color all the time. And these days, the statement goes on for like 25 minutes and the questions are not, they're much more disciplined. I mean, to give them credit, they're real disciplined about what they say. It was kind of more fun before, but I understand from a corporate perspective why you wouldn't want to, have somebody say something that they would live to regret later if you could avoid it.
When every word can cost you $100 million, right? You're like, we're going to use less words.
Hey, Tim, I just got the new Galaxy Z Flip 6, and I wasn't sure if I should open the box. Is there any reason you could think of that I might not want to open this folding phone
Tim,
right now?
Tim, a new iPhone says what?
What?
Again, just trying to trick him. I had to do it.
So Jason Snell. Why do we even let you in here?
According to the market analysts, the big thing everybody will be watching is China sales. Yeah. Canalys says that Apple has really been declining in China. The top 6 smartphone manufacturers are Vivo, Oppo, Honor, Huawei, and Xiaomi, followed by Apple in 6th place. Yeah. And Apple's market share is 14% according to Canalys. Again, this is Canalys. I don't know how accurate it is, but a decrease of 2% from the second quarter of the previous year. So Apple is declining. And so that's one of the things those analysts will absolutely be asking.
Last quarter, Canalys had bad numbers in China for Apple. And Apple said they were wrong.
He denied it. He said
they were wrong. And that was not what they were seeing. And so... that's the challenge with Chinese market is, first off, China is kind of hard to read. And then the analysts are trying everything they can. At least Apple has actual sales figures to report.
Yeah, they know. Yeah. So they may not know what Vivo, Oppo, Honor, Huawei, Xiaomi, or
Bingo, Bango, Bongo, and Irving. Yeah.
It does sound like
Zippo.
Zippo, Harpo.
By the way, those are all Chinese manufacturers, and they really are dominant.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's amazing that Apple plays as well as it does in China because it is an outsider company, and that's because Tim Cook has made such an effort to make Apple and Apple's brand part of the Chinese culture of smartphones, and they have, but there are, and it ebbs and flows, right? I mean, if the government is feeling a little more nationalistic, they're going to kind of put the screws to Apple, and if the government is feeling like it's to their benefit for Apple to bloom a little bit, and that people like the fact that a worldwide recognized brand is also available to them in China, they'll let it flower a little bit. Not to say that parts of the Chinese market are entirely artificial and controlled by the government, but
well, and I don't think the government is necessarily. I mean, I don't think that they are obtuse enough to not see that Apple's diversifying manufacturing as well, which is going to create internal headwinds in China. From the government. Is that Apple
headwinds.
Has headwinds.
Alex,
yeah, exactly.
You could be on the call with talk like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the but the those headwinds show up because China's going to push back on Apple because they're going to make it a little harder, and that's their way of applying pressure. But Apple, it has to diversify because if there ends up being a conflict between China and Taiwan, then all these companies have to know where they're going to go next because they're not going to be able to go to China.
And it is clear that they've been saying the message for the past 5 years that they would love it if all of the technology that everyone relies on is Chinese technology. It would be wonderful if all the money that's spent that the middle class spends on gadgets and luxuries are Chinese manufactured. The money stays inside the country. And it's not that, God, I don't think we've been doing this podcast long enough to have conversations about the death of Apple in any way, shape, or form. But these are the times when you look at numbers like these, where they do seem to be not in just, oh God, they just had a few bad quarters, where they do seem to be in a period of decline in China, that's when you look at other analysts and say, how much of Apple's money comes from the iPhone? Oh, it's typically 50%. It's half of their money is still coming from iPhone sales. So until they get that part of the pie down to until they replace that income with something else, they are really going to have to be pursuing China hard. They're really going to be pursuing India hard. Any place that they haven't sold iPhones before, they're going to try hard to make sure that they're selling iPhones there, because they're getting a lot of Android switchers, but they're not really winning the hearts. And the next generation of iPhone owners is not going to come from people who are switching from Android. That's absolutely for sure. So they have to keep this pipeline open and flooding.
Watch with interest when they ask about India. Apple cut the prices of iPhones in India after India cut its tariffs to Apple. Smartphone duties were cut from 20% to 15%. Apple's reduced the prices of its Pro models by 3 to 4%. Whether that'll make a difference in India, I don't know, but certainly it's as the second largest economy in the world. It's something Apple could use to shore up its losses in China.
It's a small percentage, but I mean, generally still, when you go overseas, the iPhone is often seen as a prestige, device that you have.
It's priced prestige.
It's like the phone version of driving a Merc.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I've been reading that, I think I mentioned this last week, but that economists are saying that like the middle class in India is going through the same sort of thing that they went through in China like 10 or 15 years ago, that it's a greater middle class with more money to spend on luxury items and things that just make them happy. And that's why India is such a big opportunity. They don't, like maybe 10 or 15 years ago, if Apple really wanted to become a significant factor in the Indian market, they would have had to really manufacture almost a localized version of it to deal with how much money people tend to spend on those phones and the features that those phones need to have. And now, not so much. So this is why the opportunity is probably greater maybe in India than it is in China.
Apple also plans to start assembling the Pro models of its iPhone in India this year. Google's doing the same. So, and that's also to reduce the tariffs, because if you're making it there, I guess you're not importing it. Apple revenue in India jumped 42% in 2023. So there is some upside. There is some.
I mean, remember that India is now the largest country in the world. I mean, population-wise, the most populated country in the world. So
it's 1.5 billion, right?
Yeah, it's past China.
It's a good market. Apple has reached a deal. I don't know if they'll bring this up at the analyst call, but Apple has reached a deal with a union. It's first ever with the store employees in Maryland. Is that the Towson Center?
Yeah,
store, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Coalition of Organized Retail Employees. The IAMAWCORE. Which represents employees at a retail location in Maryland, announced it has struck a 3-year deal with Apple that will increase pay by an average of 10% and offer other benefits to workers. 85 employees at the Towson Apple store. Now, they have to vote it in, so the vote's scheduled for August 6th. But I guess they do the bargaining and then they vote.
Yeah, they voted last year like something like 65 to 85 to unionize. That, according to law, that then starts a negotiation period in which they draw up a contract with Apple, after which either the whole thing collapses and the government has to step in, or things go to a worse projection. However, it's going to be the first Apple store to actually be unionized. They were the second to vote to unionize, behind an Oklahoma City store, but those negotiations are still ongoing. I think the Maryland store was actually complaining, or the union negotiators were complaining that Apple was kind of dragging their feet there. So it's good to see that it actually comes through.
Yeah, it didn't go easy. I mean, in fact, the workers announced a strike in May because talks had gone on for more than a year with Apple. And I guess it was the threat of a strike that brought Apple back to the table and they were able to work out something. Apple has made a deal, but it doesn't mean that they did it willingly.
Yeah, I mean, this is they're a typical company in which, like, of course, there are also allegations that you can't like pull employees out of their lunch break the managers can't pull employees out of their lunch break to tell them about why unionizing would be bad. You can't like not allow these workers to like share materials. All this sort of stuff where there's like a website on the government that says that here are things you cannot do, and Apple was, or at least that location that those things were happening. Every company's going to fight this sort of thing tooth and nail. If they've never had to if they've never had to deal with a unionized workforce, they're not going to enjoy it. They're not going to be in favor of it. They're going to fight it every single way they can. So the fact that they finally like gave up the fight, that's, I think, a win. We'll see. And as usual, when something like this happens, when something that has never happened before is now a reality, now we get to see whether the world comes to an end or not. And if it doesn't, that becomes like, well, why don't other stores unionize? Why don't more Starbucks facilities unionize? And the bottom line is they wouldn't have unionized if they were very, very happy where they were, if they were happy with the policies, if they were happy with the way they were being treated. It's rarely something you do just because you enjoy having a level of bureaucracy in your life that you didn't have before. So glad this is happening.
10% raise. I think that sounds like a good thing, I guess. Yeah. All right, let's take a little break. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy Iannacco right there. He's on WGBH in Boston. When? Soon?
A week from Thursday, I think.
Okay. Also, Alex Lindsay, who every morning gets up early, does what I will be doing soon. Shuffles along in his jammies to the studio in the garage.
I have a nice shirt.
Doing the show.
Smelling his shirt, seeing if that's okay for camera. They want to smell it.
Exactly.
I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. One of the things we're going to be doing in the new studio kind of lets us do, because it's such a production to do a show here. Engineers have to come in, and we it's a lot of work. I can literally just go up 7 stairs to the attic and do a show. So I hope I want to do more ad hoc shows. And I'm mentioning this now because I hope that you guys will be, if there's a story that I think one of you would apply to, or a couple of you, we can do it. We don't have to wait till Tuesdays to do a little ad hoc something. Yeah, so I want to do more. Yeah, I'm hoping to. And honestly, Alex, you're the inspiration. Yes. Would you? I'll page you. We actually have 2 pagers that we're getting rid of. We found 2 pagers in the studio. So, Alex, you're the inspiration. I mean, office hours, the way office hours works is great. And it really made me start thinking, well, does Twit have to be solely a maker of podcasts? Can we do other things too? Well,
I think that I have found over the last 4 years that it is just it's not only freeing, but it is, and you've gotten to over COVID, so many more of us are coming in remotely than being there. Exactly. It just made more and more sense to go virtual.
And of course, Jason Snell, who works out of his garage or his mom's house. You never know.
Jim Jams. Yep,
in his Jim Jams. It's comfy. The real challenge for me is the reason when I started doing the radio show in 2004, I was doing it at home. And I almost immediately found a space to rent because I just felt like it was I just couldn't get my energy up. It was like too easy. We'll see.
I think for me, the big thing is that I have an office that I do office things in, and the rest of the house is actually pretty low tech. Other than the TV, there's almost no electronics in the rest of the house. Wow. And so when I walk out of this room, it's like walking into another world. Like I don't. And so if I want to do techie stuff, I do it here.
That's what we've made my attic look like. Another world.
I don't take my. I mean, I have my phone. But I don't take my iPads out of the office. I don't take my laptop out of the office. I don't even take my Vision Pro.
Fix,
I do tech. I walk into one. There's one room that is all tech, and then the rest of the rooms are empty.
There really is something to that. Like one of the reasons why I keep doing things from the library is that I just noticed that the fact that I have to pack my backpack, take a lovely 1.5 mile walk, be in an entirely new place. You get your mind gets into a different space. Whereas, especially the times when the show, I'm on a really super deadline. Like I got a book deadline. Like at the end of the week, it is like book. It is 1:59. Okay, I will then switch to this chair. Podcast. Then we're over. Okay, book. And I'm not sure if I was at my best during those sort of things. I'm enjoying. There really is something to resetting your head between tasks.
Yeah. Well, maybe I will find a way to do that on the 7 steps up.
Sometimes that's all it takes. I mean, I've been staring at my screen thinking, how am I going to write this thing? And I literally go into the next room. And then it comes out.
A little context switch.
It can actually be really nice to have that be your little. When you.
It really is. It is a man cave. I've really turned it into it. I even have a OLED TV and a couch up there. So it is kind of my little man cave. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Jason Snell, Andy Ihnatko, Alex Lindsay. I want to thank Michael Rice because he sent us another Vision Pro jingle based on a song you might recognize from Quincy Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Vision Pro segment.
Vision Pro. Oh, Vision Pro. Vision Pro. Please don't go.
I hope Quincy Jones does not sue us for that.
Can I pour you a glass of Crown Royal straight around the rocks?
Oh, I love it. So in the Vision Pro world, well, the number one story is this Sunday, it'll be a Vision Pro version of This Week in Tech, thanks to Alex Lindsay and Stream Voodoo, right? They're the ones doing the back end.
Yeah, and what you want to do is go to streamvoodoo.com/spatial so that you can get on the list, because that's a mailing list, and we'll send out the link there. We'll probably post it in a couple other places as well, but it'll be something that you can but the best thing to do is to get on their list so that you get a direct email that lets you know where to go. So,
and it's an app. Their spatial app is an app.
It's an app for it's an app for the Vision Pro, and you'll be able to see it there. What we're doing is we're streaming just from an iPhone. So it's an iPhone to the
Oh, you're not bringing like the R8 and the dual lens.
I may bring it to record, but I'm not going to stream from it. So I'm going to record some stuff there.
Has
just
to be
to
from
test
the iPhone.
But what we're streaming from, there's another app on the iPhone that streams in spatial. So when I pull it up, I see 2 windows, which is the left and right eye, and then I send that out to the app, and so we'll be testing. We're testing it all week, and I think it's
Stream Voodoo.
It should be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Now there's a lot of people who say, "Well, I have a Meta Quest. Can I watch? Can they?"
Not right now. Okay. I mean, it's just and it has to do with just making sure that one thing's working well. I mean, there's enough moving parts that trying to support a bunch of other platforms. I don't think that it's impossible for that to happen. But I think that what we're doing is what I think that Stream Voodoo is doing. I don't have any part of it. I mean, other than playing with it, it's not my app. But I think that they're just trying to stay focused on to make sure it actually works well.
If we made a recording, could it then be made available on?
Yep. I think we could. Yeah, and it'll get recorded into the cloud as it happens, and so we could theoretically take that the MV HEVC and then convert that to dual eye and then put it in. So I think that it's possible that the recording could end up in a MetaQuest.
No commitments, but it's a conceivability.
But we'll give it a shot. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. Yeah. That's not the only Vision Pro news, but it's a good way to start. No. Please don't go. There is a rival, Elon Musk's Neuralink company, and they're about to, by the way, do another, I don't want to say the word victim, but have another person get the implant. They're making progress. There are other companies doing this, including one called Synchron. Their implant now lets people control their Vision Pro with their minds. They announced today they've connected their brain implant to a Vision Pro headset. Synchron is trying to build a brain-computer interface that will allow patients who are paralyzed to control their personal electronics with their minds. Imagine that.
So I guess it's because I guess they still have their eyes, but it's the tapping, I guess, that they're controlling. Is it you think about?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's for people with limited physical mobility.
Right, so you'd be able to put the headset on, because the thing that, obviously it's following your eyes around, and I think that would be hard to reproduce.
Clicking, if they can't
clicking, it would just be thinking about or doing something with that would.
That's what Synchron's saying. They're working to make it accessible to patients who can't speak or move their upper limbs.
Yeah. And it's not like they're using the Vision Pro as a therapeutic device or as an assistive device in itself. It's just, he could like the beta tester they mentioned in the material has ALS, and he basically uses the Vision Pro the same way that through the implant that he uses his phone, his laptop, his iPad, all that other sort of stuff.
Here's a new acronym for you to learn: BCI, brain computer interfaces. That's what Neurotech is doing. That's what Neuralink, Elon Musk's company, is doing. CNBC says there's actually quite a few companies in this field.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for someone to say I had a little problem with my BCI. I had a headache.
BCI.
Yeah, it was like the BCI. Yeah. The BCI was corrupted, and it was like, oh, what a migraine. Oh.
Synchron is a little different because they insert the BCI into the jugular vein. They don't do open brain surgery as Neuralink does.
Yeah, it's a stent, like they described as a stent-like device. And I want to learn more about it, but it's not just the one of the challenges of this kind of technology is not just getting it to work, but also making a device that can be removed. Like the Neuralink is it's brain surgery, and it's a fairly invasive process. If one of the connections fails, that's just it. The idea of a stent-like device that can be inserted and then removed either for repair or for upgrades, that seems like a great way to go.
Mark, the ALS patient who has been working with the trials, says he meets with Synchron for 2 hours twice a week to practice different skills and functions. He's been testing it since April. He's been able to use the Vision Pro to send texts, play solitaire, and watch TV. He said using his brain-computer interface to control the headset is not much different from using it to control his iPhone, iPad, and computer. Some applications within the headset are more limiting and challenging than the others. He's still experimenting for new ways to use it. That is super, super cool. He says he can't lift his arms to paint anymore, so he's using the Vision Pro to create art. That is just amazing. Yeah, just amazing.
And that's another reason why, that should be part of the conversation with generative art. Like, what if you have an artistic vision, but you don't have the ability to manipulate the tools for creating art, the ability to speak into a microphone or use a tool, a visualizer like the Vision Pro, and still be an artist and to the full extent of your imagination? That's a pretty damn good application of generative art.
Fashion continues to come to the Vision Pro. Balenciaga and German luggage brand Rimowa have launched apps for the VP. That's how I like to call it, the VP. I guess Balenciaga's app is designed to provide users with an immersive view of the fashion shows and collections. It's just, it's just a way of looking at it, I guess.
It's a wonderful opportunity for the scum of the earth and the riffraff to have part of the excitement of being at one of these events, even though we would never, ever, ever let them within 100 yards.
I like to call them the little people, actually. Rimowa's app lets you, is an immersive and interactive experience, according to Mac Rumors. It allows users to explore the brand's iconic suitcases in detail. You ever want to get inside a suitcase? Well, now you can.
From the vantage point of a luggage tag, now you can see it.
Wow.
See it and be it.
Gucci had a Vision Pro app released in April. This is
really, the Gucci app's really great. I mean,
is it?
It is. I have never bought a thing from Gucci, nor will I ever, but it's a really, really interesting use of
fun.
Extended. It's like video, but then they extend the video with other AR features. It's actually it's worth, if people have a Vision Pro, you should get the Gucci app just because it's free. And it is it's almost like somebody saying, here's what we think the future of video and immersive experiences is. It's like, it's worth the ride.
Nice.
It's interesting. I'm just with Vision Pro, with the Meta Quest, with all these other things, it's disappointing when you have a device, a platform with so much potential, and so much of the news is, hey, here's another app that will help you shop. And it's a great demonstration, but it's like, so I'm going to give you $800 or $3,500, and in return, I will get something that will help people sell me a refrigerator for okay, that's nice, but.
You were talking in the Discord, Jason, about the new horror experience on the Vision Pro.
Oh, Lake Vrangwa. Oh, it's those Swedish murder mystery shows.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this is where they would find your body washed up on the shores of Lake Frank. Look, I think what Apple said is, different people find comfiness in different places. Maybe it's the beach at Bora Bora. Maybe it's the deserts, clarity of the desert air in Joshua Tree. Maybe it's that beautiful lake that's below Mount Hood. But what if you wanted to be in a creepy Norwegian fog-shrouded lake where there could be a killer around any corner? It's Lake Wrangler environment, which they added. Going. Actually, the cool thing about this is that they showed. First off, the coming soons are gone now. They've come. It was soon, but also it shows the extensibility of Apple Vision Pro environments where they're all dynamically downloadable and removable, and that means that there was no software update. They just updated whatever environments available file they have on their server, and suddenly Lake Wrangler became available to download. And so there's another environment. Environments are great. I mean, I love them. I want more of them. I want developers to be able to contribute the ones they build for their apps to the system so you can work in them. It's one of my favorite things about Vision Pro, honestly, is these wacky environments that you can sit in and do your computing if you don't want to see the world around you. This one will not be one of my choices because I do feel like I have to keep looking around, where's Lars?
So it's
Lars
very
is
misty.
Here and he's got a knife, right?
It's
I don't want to do that.
You can't really,
it is.
It's see very the distance.
Sad. Or it's one of those sad Norwegian drama, crime dramas where it's like, not only am I sad because I'm a divorced dad who was recently shot and just recovered, and I'm a detective, but now also that this horrible murder, and I'm the only one who can solve it, and it happened here at Lake Wrangler. That's the vibe of this place,
and it's fantastic because how many of us can have enough vacation days, let alone the travel budget to travel to Sweden to be murdered? We get to sort of experience. It's no longer for the European elite. It's now accessible to everybody. Yeah, and we should be very, very proud to be living.
You too can be in a Norwegian murder mystery.
It is something that I think that as you go forward, I mean, horror is one of the things that higher frame rate and more immersive. Like you can
tell
build.
Me you heard that.
The loons.
But I do think that I think that I think you will see some horror experiences that aren't like games or anything interactive, just a movie that is going to take you kind of a Blair Witch Project kind of approach to things in the not too distant future.
Sure.
Again, one of the things that we hope is going to open up a lot of these opportunities is the new Blackmagic camera when it comes out, just because it's the first camera that's not an art project that does this. And so just being able to captures 8K, potentially captures 8K per eye, 90 frames a second. So you're going to, at a high frame rate and really high resolution per eye, and something you can just turn on and hit record, even if it's going to be a $25,000 camera that rents for $1,000 a day or whatever. It's something that I think you're going to see more people use in a variety of different ways.
I was watching the women's gymnastics team final on Peacock this morning, and you see, I mean, Simone Biles is surrounded by camera operators, trying to get in, and there's the one Japanese guy on sticks. Because I realized, he's probably shooting 8K, right? He cannot move.
Yeah,
he has to stay right there. If only I could see it. I would like to see it in 8K.
Have the loons stopped calling, Clarice?
Oh, it's chilling. What movie would you watch in Lake Wrangler? What do you think? Do you have a good movie for that?
Anything creepy. Actually, no, just like a big broad, like Palm Springs or something that's very bright and funny.
Hello, Dolly.
Because otherwise I'm out of there.
What was the Elizabeth Moss show that she's a murder? She's a detective in Australia. Lake, Top of the Lake. That would be a good one to watch in Lake Wrangler.
Yeah, Happy Valley, which is a British show about a valley that is not happy. Not happy. might be a good one to put in there too.
Unhappy lake.
What is the one with the AI, the woman who's AI, or she's partially built or whatever? She's in that house in the middle of nowhere.
I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good one to watch.
That's a good one.
Well, I mean, really what you want is like Wallander with Kenneth Branagh, right? Where it's like, I'm just a depressed Swedish or whatever Scandinavian detective. That's what you want to watch on there. Just really depressing stuff.
Depressing
Wallander
stuff with the loons in the background. Sounds good. That's the Vision Pro segment. Hit it. You can use the other one this time.
Now you see, now you know, we're done talking the Vision Pro.
You know, the production values, we leave, nothing on the table.
We're going up.
Just putting it all in. I'm going to have, I'm getting one of those Stream Decks that has knobs and buttons. I'm going to have.
Yeah, there you go.
All sorts of.
We're morning Sue, here we come.
Laporte.
Where'd you find that one, John Ashley?
Alex Lindsay.
Oh my. That's when we had jingles.
Wow. Now play Renee Ritchie.
Yeah, because I don't think there's a Jason Snell. I hate to say it.
Yeah, production values. I love it.
Jason Snell.
Jason. Let's do it together in harmony. Andy, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Jason Snell. I screwed that one.
In the morning.
KNBR 68, San Francisco.
The sports leader. I wish I had my old jingle package. I don't know where it went. It'd be fun. Why do you let those things go? This is my fear here as we move out of the studio. I know there's going to be one thing I'm going to go, God, I shouldn't have let that go. That's life, right? You move on. That's right. Things you move on.
Or you become a hoarder. So don't.
Yeah, I don't want to be. I've watched that show. I don't want to be that guy.
No.
There
Watch
is
Lake Wrangler. See how you feel then.
So apparently you can now get Doom, GZDoom on the App Store.
Yeah. Yeah. So GZDoom is like not an emulator of Doom. It's actually a port of the source code because the source code is out there and everywhere.
That's a way to do it. Yeah.
And it's available for a bunch of different platforms. And not only is it compatible with like Doom, it's compatible. It's like the Infocom player where it's compatible with any game that was built on top of the Doom engine. So it's not just Doom, but a whole bunch of other games and a whole bunch of other mods that work with it. And as usual, it's just one couple of people who decided to kind of get this running on iOS, and they finally got it running on iOS.
Yeah. So GenZD is like the Infocom player that you can then put games into. Is that the idea?
Right. It's
$1.99 for that.
Engine. Yeah.
And then you have launcher no saved configuration, add a launch configuration. And then do I have to download ROMs or something to get Doom on here?
You have to. I think you do have to source
import files. You have to find it somewhere magically.
Exactly. As though such a thing were possible, because we know that everyone's pretty honest out there. They don't put ROM files out there.
Yes,
software files. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have this just as a completist sort of thing. To answer the question, will it run Doom? When you have people who are trying to like port Doom to a TI calculator, it's like I will not be denied the ability to port Doom to the slide rule.
So that version of Doom is on GitHub, so you don't have to break a law to get it. It is on GitHub, and then you somehow magically get it into your phone.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just downloading Doom from the App Store or anything like that, or buying Doom from the App Store. But again, to
think
run
of that as part of the game, part of the challenge. Getting Doom to run on your iPhone. My God, they've had it running on the Apple Watch for years. I don't know what's the problem.
They have it running on the taskbar on the oh God, I can't remember.
Oh, that's right.
On the old MacBooks.
Yeah, the touch bar.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Again, if it has a display and there's some way of putting input into it, someone is porting Doom to it.
Apple Maps launch on the web. Well, thank God.
Yeah.
What's the deal?
Kind of like, so It's weird because the first device I tried it on was my Android phone, and said, "Oh, this is not compatible with your device." And I thought, okay, is there anything weird going on? It doesn't work on phones of any kind. It does work. It's not WebKit exclusive because it will
also
work
doesn't
on
work
Chrome
on Firefox. I see.
Right. It'll work on Chrome on desktop, so it's not just WebKit limited. But you notice that I asked, as a matter of fact, I asked Apple like that night for clarification that, okay, so when you get to the page of saying what is compatible with, that is an all-inclusive list that yes it is. So that means that the iPhone cannot, not that you'd want to, but it seemed kind of odd that one of the great things about making it a website means that anything that runs like a modern web browser should be able to open and run it. But apparently not. Apparently it's just for like large screens of some kind. It's not feature compatible, but in terms of like the stuff that you want to get out of Apple Maps, which is, the basic read and write and arithmetic, and also the really, really cool, God, if there's one area in which Apple Maps absolutely trounces Google Maps, it's just so much prettier and so much nicer and so much easier to navigate with your eyes. And you get all of that.
One of the nice features is you can incorporate it into your app using MapKit.js or link out to maps on the web, so your website can. But it is I think it's a little disadvantage if somebody's on your restaurant website, they click the map and then it says, oh, no, you're not running Edge or Chrome or Safari. Yeah. That's kind of a disadvantage.
And that's also you have to understand like exactly how important Google Maps is as a platform for shopping and for advertising. That the idea of it's not just getting you routing information from A to B. It's nice that they have features that will let you get walking directions and transportation directions, but it really is like if you run a business and you want people to be able to find your business, you want to be on Google Maps. Apple Maps is nice, but you want to be on Google Maps.
Yeah,
and the social media platforms, so to speak, that's behind it, of adding content to it and policing that content is also pretty massive. But it's great that now it's available. It's not just locked into an app, that is really accessible to more people. And it is a beta. First week of the beta, obviously they say they're going to be adding more platforms and more things to it. So we'll see where it is in 6 months from now.
Yeah. I guess you could say this is a little bit of a tell. Apple TV executives are meeting with the UK TV ratings body. It's called Barb. So when you see a headline that says Apple's meeting with Barb, it is Streisand. Barb is jointly owned by the broadcasters, including BBC, ITV, Channel 4, and Sky. They provide viewing data. It's like meeting with Nielsen. They provide the viewing data for British TV. So the implication is that Apple TV Plus is thinking about advertising.
Absolutely. Not to say I told you so, but I wrote a story in April of last year on Macworld about this and said it was as inevitable as a Ted Lasso spinoff. Hasn't happened yet. Gonna happen. It'll happen. You'll see Ted Lasso or other characters from that show again because it's inevitable. And this is inevitable because almost every streaming service has an ad tier. And you ask why, and the answer is money. The answer is you will get people who won't buy your service for X price, but will buy it for a cheaper price because they don't mind about the ads. And then you get to increase your ad revenue. And I'll tell you, almost every one of these services has found that if you make a cheaper version with ads and then put ads in it, the average revenue per user is higher than their premium product. And so you're making more money
interesting.
And expanding your total number of subscribers. And, it varies. Netflix is different from Amazon, but nobody's not doing an ad tier. It gives you the ability to go a little bit cheaper or to raise your premium price and keep the other one there. And they've got a vice president in charge of ad sales. They're putting ads, in all sorts of other things. TV Plus already has ads in all the sports stuff anyway. And so it's inevitable, right? And I don't think Apple's going to do it where they're going to take everybody and throw them on an ad tier. I think it's more likely that they're going to offer a cheaper tier and see if they can use that as another inducement to get people watching Apple TV Plus. Because the big issue with TV Plus at this point isn't even really its quality or its catalog. They're doing pretty well. It's that its overall number of viewers is really low compared to most of the other streamers. So if this is a way to reach more people who are like looking at Apple's selection and going, I don't really want to do that. Then, that'll be good for Apple. I won't ever, watch an ad again on purpose if I can avoid it. But there is financial sense for this. And it's just the moment that Netflix said they do it, everybody's going to do it. Disney's doing it. HBO Max, now Max has done it. Amazon did it. Everybody will have an ad tier. You won't be forced onto it, but everybody's going to have one, and that includes Apple.
And I think it's fine if you're giving a free ad tier that has lots of free ad tier or a very inexpensive
low-cost
cheap ad tier. Yeah,
as long as there's the one that people have right now. The part that Amazon really I think misstepped on is the one that people are already getting. They like every first grader will tell you 100%. You can't change the rules. So the thing is that they by adding this onto it just really made everybody upset.
Yeah. Whereas it worked is the problem, Alex. It worked. They got a huge base and they've made a huge amount of money rolling ads into those places.
I think that sometimes there is a short-term gain and a long-term cost, and maybe Amazon won't pay it, but I can tell you personally, my relationship to how I viewed Amazon changed dramatically for $3 a month. Like, I don't know what it was about that. It's $3 a month. And I was like, screw those guys. Like, and
me too.
And I'm just like, and now I'm like, it's not like I'm not buying anything from Amazon. I'm not like, doing whatever, but it definitely put a huge damper on how I feel about Amazon over $3 a month, and I think that, and it's combined with the fact that, Whole Foods is turning into Trader Joe's, and so, and it just feel like Amazon's manipulating you when you're in Whole Foods now, which is great for farmers markets because that's where I'm going now.
I like Trader Joe's. What are you saying? What are you trying to say there?
It's because they're expensive, Trader Joe's.
No, I just don't want it all one brand. I go to Whole Foods because it was a collection of brands and it wasn't all one brand that just makes all the things.
But it was whole paycheck.
It's now all 365. It's all and what they do is they cut you can't find the things you're buying all the time, and then suddenly there's a whole bunch of 365 there. And I've got to the point where I'm so resistant that I won't buy it. Like, I'm just like, if it's empty, I'm just like, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm like, I'm not going to be told what to do. And now what I'm doing is I'm buying like 80% of what I eat now at farmers markets because I'm just tired of Whole Foods. And the point is that but I think that it is, again, it's only $3 a month. It shouldn't bother me at all. There's lots of things that go up and down $3 a month in my life. There was just something about it that made me really, it just tweaked me. Like, Amazon was like, oh, Amazon's doing pretty good. And then it was just like,
it's funny because I had the opposite.
A lot of brand
reaction.
Damage.
As soon as I saw on the screen, coming soon, ad supported, or you can, we're going to have ads, or you can pay another, whatever it was, $8 a month. Three, is that all? I immediately clicked it.
Yeah.
It was like my knee jerked. It was
what happened is I didn't see it. I clicked it. I saw the ads, suddenly the ads were there. And then there was a whole bunch of WTF, but not shortened. And, just me being mad about why am I getting ads? And then realizing I had to pay $3. And it was just, again, it was just something. I think the problem is that in my head, I'm like, I spend a lot of money with Amazon. I spend a lot of money with Amazon, and I'm just like, it's like thousands of dollars a year with Amazon. I was like, they should, and it's just
spiff me, man.
They're just it's just yeah. So.
This might be more important for Apple than for the other streamers, because I think we were talking the week before about analysts' interpretation of what Apple TV Plus's numbers were. And as Jason said, they are not just behind, they are way behind. It's just miserably behind. And also that their growth rate is slow to non-existent, if I remember correctly. And that means that most of the people that suggests that most of the people that they were going to get, they already got. So they got to find people who are not subscribers and figure out why they're not and how to get them on board. And one of the ways could be just Apple TV is not the hub sort of streaming destination for anybody for any purposes. Like for me, Max is my hub.
It's an extra.
It's where exactly. You have your hub, and then you have other services you add to because maybe you like the show or something like that, to get more people to say maybe I can have Netflix and Apple TV. Like, they're also packaging things that show you that it's not a destination; it's a nice add-on.
I think the hard part is that my hub is YouTube. So I'm going to YouTube all the time to watch stuff, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch.
But you pay for
longer.
YouTube Premium
Happily.
Yeah, of course.
Happily. Yeah. That's the best. The last subscription I'll give up is YouTube. It is, I did a poll on an unscientific poll on Twitter of like, if you only got to have one service for the next 10 years, which one would you choose? And YouTube was by far
but also doesn't that have to do more with the kind of content you like? Because YouTube, you're never going to see a Succession on YouTube or a Game of Thrones on YouTube.
Yeah, I just think, but the thing is that there's so much. I watch incredible videos about something really obscure.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You like that kind of documentary how-to video. But I don't want to watch that all day. I want to watch.
I also like to watch TV. What is a daily dose of internet? There's a lot of silly stuff on there as well. And
that's narrow trivia stuff. I don't want to watch that.
The thing, the thing is, like, YouTube has the stuff that you will not be able to find anywhere else. If you like Game of Thrones, maybe you can find something that scratches that itch in the same way. However,
you think? Really?
But the problem is not the brand name, but saying I want something
that's similar,
epic drama, multi-season, multi-series with lots of great effects and lots of spectacle
on YouTube
versus. Oh no, I'm saying like that. What I'm saying is that what YouTube delivers is like there is a creator who just hand sews historical garments. Okay. And she is an anesthesiologist. Okay. Her name is Sostine. Okay. But she makes these amazing reproductions of like 18th century, 19th century gowns. Okay. That is not something that's going to wind up like on the Discovery Channel or on, where she just makes these things and you watch her making them and watch her going to places with them. And it's amazing. It's the kind of narrow casting things you could only get there. Whereas, like, I was able to hop from Netflix to Max because I felt as though everything that was really good on Netflix I'd already seen, whereas I hadn't really started to plumb the depths of Max yet. YouTube is the one that I would never leave because there's nothing similar in content to that. What I was getting at before is that, like, if you can't get Game of Thrones, you can say, well, are you interested in Game of Thrones because you like epic storytelling on a multi-season level where the episodes cost tens of millions of dollars and have huge spectacle, huge effects, ongoing like intrigue, written on a very, very huge canvas. Okay, well, there are Star Wars series on Disney that might be able to scratch that itch for you. Whereas there is no other channel that is a go-to place for. Well, and I think a guy who channels like TechMoan, where here is a karaoke machine for in-car use made in Japan in 1978. I fixed it, and now here's how the cartridges work. I mean, that's not something you can get anywhere else.
But the risk is so much lower for YouTube because they're not making the content. And the thing is that, and that's the hard part that all these streamers are going to have is that, Game of Thrones is a good example. It was a great first 4 seasons and slowly got worse until it's so bad that I would never go back and start watching it again, because I'm so angry about how it ended, it was just, I felt like I just got, taken for a ride for the last 4 seasons, just that you just kept on thinking there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and it turned out to be a train going the other way, and so I think that's the challenge with a lot of the larger narrative is that you put a bunch of money into it, and then a lot of them are hit and miss, and I think that's really hard for streamers to compete with when more and more of the next generation is just watching YouTube. I mean, my kids, my watching habit is probably 80% in YouTube, but my kids are 95%. And I have a hard time. Like, I look at movies and I'm like, wow, that's a big commitment for one night. Like, I don't know, it's very hard to get me to watch a whole movie, like whole 2 hours. I'm like, okay, I'll watch. And that's why I like series, because I like to watch. I think
that's kind of bad for people. Like, everything on YouTube is hyper sensationalized. Not everything. Most of it.
I watch.
To succeed on YouTube, you have to hyper sensationalize.
No, you don't. You don't. Look at Veritasium. Like there's someone who's very successful, Tom Scott. There's a lot of people who are making good money doing things that are, Chef PK. There's a whole variety of folks that are making a good living. What they're not doing is they're not making hundreds of millions of dollars or making $20 million contracts. But there's a lot of people making $250,000 or $500,000 a year doing their little, doing whatever that they're excited about. I mean, there's, whether it's coloring books or there is Emily D. Baker. All she does is looks at the court cases, and she used to be a prosecutor, and she just talks about them with her community. She sits there and just talking about the court cases. It's done in StreamYard. It's not a particularly shiny thing. It's just really well done by someone who knows what they're talking about. There's not a lot of bells and whistles. And you'll go up there and she'll have 25 to 30,000 concurrent viewers watching with her. And that's a crazy vertical, and she's just really good at it. She's got a great personality and she understands what she's talking about, and people, and she knows how to work with her community. And so there's a lot of folks that are, again, have a staff and are making a living doing what they're doing. And I think that that's amazing. It's flat.
What's the average length of YouTube show that you watch, would you say? Do you know?
Probably
about half an hour.
8 to 10 minutes for me. I mean, I don't like, if I see a longer one, it just has to be good. Like I'll skip very fast. Like I'm very good.
When I scroll through my front page on YouTube, I feel like if I start watching any one of these, I'm going to be sucked down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And then 4 hours later, I'm going to come up for air and I will have wasted 4 hours of watching.
It just depends on what
kind
you subscribe to.
Random stuff.
It depends on what you're subscribing to and what you're watching. I'm subscribed to a bunch of channels and the channels that I watch.
The front page is probably not what I should be looking at.
The front page, if you're subscribed to a lot of channels and you watch a lot of it, then it becomes what you watch, and so like very quickly, by the way, you watch a couple cooking channels and you'll see cooking stuff very fast, it's very, the algorithm is very responsive. And so I think that it is, again, I think people, when they keep on talking about streamers, they leave YouTube out of the conversation, but it is the gorilla in the room. It is the thing that just keeps growing. It just keeps growing and no one's paying attention, that it is a vast majority of the next generation's viewing habits. And it is not, and so I think that it's going to be,
and because you pay for premium, you don't see any ads unless they're baked in.
Yeah,
you'd see our ads because they're baked in. But if it's not baked in, you don't see.
I should point out that last week's earnings call, they were very proudly for Google and Alphabet. They were very proud to say that YouTube is the #1 streaming platform according to Nielsen for like the 17th month in a row. Not just not just limited to devices, but like TV streamers on actual big screen, like real TV sets. There's another number that I didn't really understand, but they were saying that when you combine like the reach of every single platform through all mediums, they're #2 behind only Disney. So this is YouTube. Yeah.
And the thing is that it's like 90% of my viewing is on a big TV. Like I don't watch it on my computer. Like I sit down and watch, and a lot of this has changed because the quality of the cameras, the quality of production, all those things have gone up to where, a lot of YouTubers are producing content higher than the broadcasters. So the YouTubers are doing 4K, short depth of field, great audio, great, at a level that is higher oftentimes than what you're seeing on broadcast. And so that's changed over the last 5 years. It's shifted, and they've gone past that. And again, I think there's a lot of really thoughtful, another one that was really good, a good example of a great show. Chloe Abrams, she just did one on the whole thing about shoes, in the Olympics, like what shoes you're allowed to wear and what you're allowed to do. And it's just fantastically hosted, edited. I mean, it's competitive with anything that you see on broadcast. As far as, and she's a great host, but the thing is that is, this is the future, and she's got 3.5 million followers, like she's not, I don't know what she's making, but I bet you it's enough to live on, and have a staff and have editors and, everything else that she's doing. And so, so I think that there are, and it's a really higher produced than a lot of TV segments that I see, but they're one segment at a time. They don't have to figure out how to fit it into between segment 4 and segment 8, or in the B block or whatever. It's just however long it takes. And it's a really, and she's interviewing people. She went to Nike and had them cut a thing in half. She talks about the different suits. It's, and there's lots of them. So there's a lot of educational content on, I guess I would say I learn a lot more, and it's much more mentally fulfilling to watch YouTube the way I watch it, at least, than anything I see on the streaming apps. Like I love watching Presumed Innocent, and I'm very proud that my brother did a lot of the camera work on it, and I watch it. I don't feel like that's improving my knowledge base, but I do enjoy it. And so I think that that's incredible.
It's a different, it just scratches a different itch. I was going to just put in a plug for
go ahead.
Technology Connections, which is one of these things that like, it's super nerdy. It's just a guy wearing a t-shirt and a blazer sitting in front of an IKEA Kallax, like the one I've got behind me, but with some better lighting. And it's super nerdy, but it's very thoughtful, and those videos are like 25 minutes long, and they're really good. And like there's a lot of really good content. There's a lot of bad content on YouTube. There's a lot of good content on YouTube. And then I've also been fascinated. So like Taskmaster, which is one of my favorite TV shows, they have it's based in the UK, but they've got worldwide outside the UK rights to their stuff, including their spinoffs. And they have a service you can pay for that's called Taskmaster Supermax Plus, I think, because they want to go all the way, and you can pay and get all their content. But the fact is they put it all on YouTube. And if you're a YouTube premium subscriber, it's ad free. It's literally the same product on YouTube that it is in a standalone service. So they're using YouTube for that, and they're monetizing it one of two ways. They either get your YouTube premium money or they get your ad money. And either way, they've made it work. So there's a bunch of I was a deep skeptic of YouTube Premium for a long time, and now I in part because the ads are so bad.
Yeah,
I can't live without it.
You have to.
And I
YouTube
feel better about
you
it.
have
No,
to.
that's their business model, and I get it. Like I started doing on one of my podcasts, I started doing ad insertion, and the ads are really annoying. And one of the reasons I did it is I held off until the moment where I realized I can now offer an ad-free version for members. And the bad dynamically inserted ads are a business model. They're basically like, they do generate money for me, but also they allow me to say, do you want to live like this? Maybe you should pay.
Not why we're inserting those terrible ads in this show. We know.
I mean,
but
it's a little bit
of trying to make you hate us.
It's a little bit
so
of
that
both.
You subscribe.
But the like you look at like there's a movie something that got posted like 3 weeks ago that says I was an MIT educated neurosurgeon and now I'm unemployed and alone in the mountains. How did I get here? and it by Gooby and Doobie. So you look at that going, what is going on here? And it has 9.8 million views, and it is an excellent video. It is a devastating commentary on the health system by someone who was a neurosurgeon. And he just said, I had to stop because there's a bunch of things that will make you better, and surgery might not be one of them. And I can't tell you that as a doctor, and he walks through it, and he walks through his path, and it's one camera on a tripod with no production value. I mean, it's him in the corner showing it. I mean, it's just, there's this is what it looks like. I mean, it's just, that's it. It's just him in a camera talking in that corner. But it's the story that mattered, and that would never go on TV. That's the whole thing. You would never get that on TV. And so you see, and again, there's plenty of horrible stuff, but there's plenty of horrible stuff on TV as well. I just find that as when we remember that the bookstores that used to be around all over, 90% of the, 90% of the bookstore, 95% of the bookstore was non-fictional content. There was 5% that was fictional. And we have to remember that what people oftentimes were buying, most of the books we buy are about things that we love, not about, for a lot of people, not about things. And that's what YouTube is really good at.
Yeah. All I can say is that again, I pay for a bunch of streaming services. Doesn't even feel with YouTube, as we've all been saying, it doesn't feel like I'm paying for streaming services. It's like I'm paying for, that thorn in the heel of your foot that represents ads on this platform. Yeah. We will pull that out for you for a small fee every month. That's what I pay for. But of all the platforms, nothing gives me that dopamine, serotonin, whatever you call it, rush of pleasure of clicking a subscription saying, oh, super fast Matt has a new video. Oh, great. You know what? I'm going to save that for a treat later on today. I'm so looking forward to watching that. And I just want to be in a good mood. I want to be all focusing on it and stuff like that. Whereas I'm starting to binge the seasons of The Crown that I missed. I still love it. I think it's a great show, but it's not, there's new seasons of The Crown that I haven't seen yet. It's it's YouTube just scratches an itch that nothing else can scratch.
I think it's a dopamine hit, and you're actually an addict, but that's okay. Whatever makes you, floats your boat.
The last series in over a year that I've been that excited about was Andor. There's a new Andor, but that's but it's once a year that I think that I guess I'll go watch the next episode.
I'm sure nothing provides the buzz that.
But again,
YouTube does, except maybe Instagram or
most of what I'm
TikTok.
watching, except for Daily Dose of Internet. Most of what I'm watching, which I love, most of what I watch is all nonfiction. It's all about things that I'm interested in. It's not. I barely ever watch anything. Oh, and trailers. I watch a lot of trailers. I have a whole shelf. YouTube's figured out that it should put a shelf right below the main thing of trailers because I'll just sit there and watch one after the other.
Which, I mean, fair enough. But to bring it back to Apple TV, I will say I think their content's really great, and I am shocked at how good a job those guys have done programming that. And they are also adding. And they're adding kind of a relevant package of back catalog films as well. They did that as an experiment, and it sounds like they may stick with that. So they're creating value in there. And, the longer they go, the more of a back catalog they've got. The challenge is to get people to try it, especially outside of that core Apple sphere that they've already reached. And if a cheaper version with ads is a way for them to get those people in, then they will do it. But I've been very happy. I think the stuff I think the stuff is really good. They have done like a shocking, especially I'm a sci-fi fan. Their sci-fi stuff has been excellent, like really good, high top shelf kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I'm a fan. I did not expect Apple TV Plus to be as high in my ranking of streaming services. It
feels like it's gotten better over the last few years. Yes.
They've learned. Yeah, I think I think they have, and they've leaned into the things they're good at. I mean, there's a limit. They're not going to lose, billions of dollars on this thing, but I think they have spent their money pretty well and made a bunch of very good shows. I mean, and there's always another one.
And I think that the thing, I think that their hit rate is much higher in the sense that I give Apple the benefit of the doubt when I see a new thing. I'm like, it's not I like everything, but I look at it and go, if I think I might like it, I'm pretty likely to go watch it because I know that the production value is going to be off the charts. It's going to be a well-made show, and if it has any chance at all, it's going to work. I think that again, Presumed Innocent, Silo, which I enjoyed a lot. Coming
back, by the way.
Yeah, I can't wait. And so those are ones. Sorry.
Great. No, just great show. I mean, I really enjoyed Dark Matter. Silo's coming back. I like
Sugar. I enjoyed Sugar. I mean,
Sugar was good. Slow Horses is great.
Slow Horses is
How about
great.
that Time Bandits? Anybody watching that?
I'm going to watch it, mostly because I love the original. I've read the enough reviews that I'm a little worried, but I'm still going to watch it because it's Apple and because I think that it could be funny.
And Severance coming early next year too. Severance is a classic.
And
really
Severance coming back is probably very good for them, and I would bet that they will announce ads right before Severance comes out.
And I think that what I'm hoping is that Apple doesn't try to water it down too much. Just keep making great things that are very, very good, and then buy up the stuff that is fill the. I think that model that they're going towards is buy a bunch of somebody else's catalog to kind of fill in the gaps, and then just keep building really high quality content that makes even HBO go, oh, that cliff is really high. So
I have to watch Dark Matter. I feel like I started it, but I can't remember what it was about. Is that the one where he has two lives? Yeah,
it's a parallel universe story, and it picks up as it goes, and I think it really does actually interrogate its premise pretty well. It's no Counterpart. Counterpart is the classic. That's worth a watch. If anybody, I don't know where it is now, if it's on Netflix, but that's a 2-season and done show that was one of the best of the last decade. But Dark Matter on TV Plus is good. Jennifer Connelly is in that, and it is a parallel universe story. And at the beginning, you think this is a simplistic parallel universe story being used to tell a very basic premise about like, what if you lived a different life? And then I just, for people who, I've talked to people who've watched 1 or 2 and they're like, yeah, I know it's sort of what I expected. I said, no, keep going because it gets weirder.
Because that's what happened. We watched 1
as it goes.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too.
And really does. I mean, the idea that you could travel between parallels, it does not shy away from that in the least. And it in the end, I ended up loving it.
Apple should do more weird stuff and experimental stuff and take some more chances. I feel like they're in the best position to do that.
Yeah, well,
I mean, they swung really hard for Foundation.
Foundation.
And swing and a miss.
No, I really disagree. I think season 2 of Foundation was fantastic.
I didn't get through season 1.
Season 1 is a tough road. Season 2 is excellent. But that is, you want to talk about weird. That is a weird show, but I loved it. Yeah. Season 2 is really good.
I will give you credit. April 2023, Jason Snell called it. Why ads on Apple TV are as inevitable as a Ted Lasso spinoff. Still waiting for that. But.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, come on. Do you think we're never going to see Roy Kent again or Ed Lasso? I do not believe that.
They're just waiting for Hannah to like hear a number she likes.
I actually heard there was some story that suggested that even Jason Sudeikis is now sort of like, So come on. The money is there.
Number go up, obviously. Yes.
To back the truck up.
All right. Let's take a little break. When we come back, your picks of the week. I do want to say that we do have an ad-free version of what we do. If you can't stand those awful ads that we insert. I never really thought of it as a strategy. We're just desperate to sell that inventory.
Trying to make it bad for them, but what I did is I wouldn't go down that route, even though I was giving my podcast away for free and not making any money on it, until I had the ability to let people become a member and get a version without the ads.
Yes,
and like I wasn't going to inflict that on them unless there was a way to go out.
The way out.
And then you choose. You choose your, if you want to support us directly or indirectly, that's fine.
We do. We really appreciate the support in the community we have surrounded ourselves with. It's what allows us to continue on in adverse times. I just saw a big article. It was the Wall Street Journal about the top 5 podcasts make all the money. And it's like $100 million to call her daddy. And it's so we just want to keep doing. We want to do the humble little thing that we do here at Twit, and we want to keep doing it. And we want to do it with your support. And if we can, that would be great. Club Twit is $7 a month. You can pay more if if you're so moved. If you say, wow, this is worth $10 a month, that's great. We'll take it. But we start, I think, fairly low so that you can do it. All the shows are ad free. You get video and shows that we only put out in audio, like Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows, iOS Today, the Untitled Linux Show, Home Theater Geeks with Scott Wilkinson. All of those are club shows in the club in video. You also get access to the entire community in Discord. Actually, only about half of the people who become members end up in Discord. That's up to you, but the Discord is a great place to hang. And it is where our live ad hoc programming will always start. Twit.tv/clubtwit. If you want to participate in this experiment, if you like what you see on Twit and you want us to do more, we'll just take this as your vote. Vote accordingly. Twit.tv/clubtwit. We appreciate all of our wonderful club members who have absolutely made this show possible. Without you, there really wouldn't be a show. Let's begin with our picks of the week with Jason Snell. Jason?
Yeah, so I got this summer some new tech toys attached to my house. I have a solar system, which finally redid the roof, and that allowed me to do solar. And at the same time, I decided to upgrade, because then you've got all that electricity from a propane, from a gas heater to an electric heat pump.
We did the same thing because we had solar. Yep.
Yeah. So great. Well, as a nerd, what I got with that was 2 new embedded intelligence systems, a solar system and an HVAC controller. And both of them are proprietary. Neither of them supports HomeKit. They both have really weird apps. And this is why I'm going to do it. I can't believe nobody has picked it before. I'm going to tell you, the secret is Homebridge. Homebridge.io. It's free. You can put it on a Raspberry Pi. If you've got a Mac you use as a server like I do, you can just install it on your Mac. But what it does is it's an open source project with a whole bunch of plugins that people make. You can build your own if you're so inclined. And I have almost never, there was one, I bought an Alexa fan that I could not get on my network. I don't know why, like nobody built a plugin for that. But Homebridge, I run it for a few things that I've got on my network. I've got a really nice little IR programmable dealie that's not HomeKit enabled, but I was able to train it and then put it on HomeKit and then use it to control the heater that I have in my office in the winter. I've got my weather station on it. I've got an air sensor. I've got my washing machine on it. Okay. I can do it. Even though none of those things support HomeKit, and it gets all in my home app. I've got an old Wemo switch that doesn't support it. It's in there. It's great. It makes non-HomeKit things work with HomeKit. You just have to have it running somewhere in your house on a Raspberry Pi, which is super cheap, or on a Mac that you've got, or some other computer that's around. So what did I do? Yesterday, I sat down and typed in the plugin search engine inside of Homebridge the name of my solar system, and it said, "Here's the plugin." And I had to put in I had to flip a switch in the settings to allow API access, and I had to put in my username and my API key, and it will allow me to create little switches to say, how charged is my solar battery? How much sun is the solar array getting? Whatever I want. Then I searched for my HVAC controller because it's this very weird, it's super weird. Remember Windows Phone? It looks like Windows Phone. It's all lowercase. It's like Metro. It's all lowercase and it sort of goes off the edge. I'm like, was this designed 15 years ago? Probably it was. But you know what? It turns out if you go into the settings and you turn on their API key, you don't even need, it sends you an API key. You don't actually even need the API key for this thing as long as the API gets lit up, because there's a plugin for Homebridge, and I put in my username and my ID and my password in there, and boom, I now have a thermostat in HomeKit in my home app that controls my new HVAC system. So what I'm saying is, I can't guarantee that all the smart devices that don't use HomeKit in your life are going to be in Homebridge. But mine were, and on top of that, Homebridge has gotten a lot better. It used to be able to edit like a JSON file, and you can still do that, but the UI to edit that stuff in a web interface is much better than it used to be. So anyway, I highly recommend, if you've got stuff that you're frustrated they only work with Alexa, or maybe they have a weird API, but they just aren't supported by the Home app or any Home app at all. There's probably a Homebridge plugin for it at this point. Like literally, my weather station does not support any smart home anything, but it's got a little web server in it that serves out JSON data, and somebody wrote a plugin for it, and now all that weather system data is in my home app as well.
I have a folder on my phone that has 17 different apps in it for controlling stuff in my house. I went out and got the HA Green, the Home Assistant thing. Do you think Homebridge is better than Home Assistant?
They're just different. Home Assistant seems like it's more to me. Like it's just, you really got to think like Home Assistant and live your life that way. But they're different. I've been using Homebridge for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's just
Homebridge.
good. And then what, not only does it put it in the Home app, which is nice, but also it means you can use automations. So you can tie different things. So like literally you can have it be that you've got like a motion sensor and you've got a thing that doesn't support HomeKit, but now is on your Home app, and you can use the motion sensor to trigger that other device. Or I've got it for all my, like for using my heater in the winter, that is on a HomeKit timer. That's how it automates itself. And it's based on a temperature sensor that lives in my office. So once you get it in the Home app, anything is possible.
Homebridge.io. Yep. And it's for HomeKit. I mean, the whole point is to bridge stuff into HomeKit. You're taking
stuff that talks to something else, whether it's the Google Home stuff or Alexa Home stuff, or just like it's a smart device that's got its own little controller that it uses to talk to its app. All of that stuff, you can bridge it, and then it's in the Home app.
Nice. And because community support is good.
I've been trying to control my pool pump from my iPhone for I don't know how long, and I just looked at it, and sure enough, it's supported. I was just like, nice.
It's right, because there are people out there. I mean, and all these plugins. I mean, they're are GitHub pages basically, so they're all open source. You can see it. It's using Node, so it's doing JavaScript is the language behind it, and little JSON files. But it's not zero maintenance, but it's gotten a lot better. It used to be that every week I was in there trying to fix something with it, but for the last couple of years, it just runs, and they re-architected it so now each plugin can run as its own separate process, which has actually helped the stability a lot. Now it just runs those in the background, and like I said, so lightweight that you can buy a super cheap a $15 Raspberry Pi setup and leave it on, and you got it.
Thank you, Jason. I am running home and installing it on my Synology after the show.
Perfect.
Andy Nocco, pick of the week.
One of the big things that I got to do every hour of every day of every week is basically keep track of web pages, because that's where I do a lot of research. That's where I learn a lot of news from. That's where by my short-term memory is basically what was I thinking about, what was I researching, what was I fixated on, what more am I thinking about working on for the next 2 or 3 days is somewhere in my web links. Recently, I've kind of made that not just saving and organizing bookmarks too. I want to make sure that I actually keep a copy of the web page as it was when I discovered it, because A, sometimes these things go away. B, sometimes, especially when it's like research papers, they might change stuff, or they might decide that we shouldn't have put that up, that sort of thing. And I've been using the single file plugin that just downloads stuff into it downloads a web page that you're looking at into an HTML file that anything can look at. However, I came across an app just the other day called Good Links that I'm starting to try out. You can go to goodlinks.app, and it's available on the App Store. It's an app for the entire platform, Mac and iOS, that activates with a plugin, and it will, when you send it a link, it will download all the content of that. It will strip out the ads. It will turn into like a reader-friendly sort of format and keep it locally on your device. The links themselves are synced across iCloud. The copy of the web page that you save, unfortunately, is only local to the device that you save it on, but that might be okay for you. The reason why it came to my attention was they just released version 2.0, which added a really neat feature that is very much in my interest. It allows you. The original version allowed you to add tags, so that if I want to find out, give me every web page about website that I bookmarked about artificial intelligence. It'll get those tags for you. Now it also allows you to save highlights. So if there's something specifically that I wanted to refer back to, it will also save those markers and those highlightings. It's also a very, very mature app. It does support, for instance, automation, both with shortcuts and with AppleScript. So you can do things like, I take this web page, but also turn it to Markdown and then put it into this Ulysses project. If it's conditional upon what tag that I've added, I added it to when I used the web page, the Chrome or the Safari plugin to save it. So very, very sophisticated app. Another thing I like about it though is that it's $10, and it's not a subscription fee. For $10, you own it, and it will work forever. The policy that they give you is that for a year, every update that we make to this app, you will also get for free. After a year, you'll have what you have. But if you want to update to something that has more features, we'll give you an app purchase for it. So it seems like a nice compromise between I bought it and downloaded it, but I lost out on something cool that was happening a few months later, versus I have to try to justify, is this worth $5 a month to me? No, $10 seems like a very fair price. And it seems like I have to say that this is not an app that I've been using for months and months and months. This is something I just came across a few days ago, but I'm liking it enough to recommend it to other people.
Good find, yeah. I'm going to try this. Good Links from goodlinks.app. Thank you, Andy. $10 at your favorite app store. Mr. Alex Lindsay, pick of the week time.
Yeah, my minor pick is dengue fever. I just saw them last night in Petaluma at Login.
You don't want to catch dengue fever.
You don't want to catch dengue fever,
it's
but
a
it's a band. I don't recommend.
I think you've mentioned them before, because I remember what a terrible name that was.
This is a Cambodian surf rock.
Wow!
It's so much fun. They were so much. If you see them coming live, they're really, really fun live. We listen to them all the time at work because I don't understand any of the words, and so I can. It's high energy and fun without getting caught up.
But it doesn't distract you.
It doesn't distract me. And so anyway,
when you say you don't understand the words, is it in Cambodian?
In Khmer.
Oh,
yeah. And the lead singer is Khmer, and but they're out of LA.
Nice.
But anyway, it's really just such a fun band, and there was so much fun to see live last night at Lagunitas.
I wish I'd known they were there. I would have.
I should have told you. I should have told you guys, because we just had such a great time.
Next time.
Yeah. My pick for the week though, and I thought we had talked about this before, but I looked at the pick, the MBW picks, and it wasn't there. This is the Express 4M2 from OWC, and I use this all day.
I have that too. I love it.
And so this you can put 4 NVMEs in here and up to 8 terabytes. So you can be a 32 terabyte little box with no moving parts, and you can throw it in your bag, and it's up to 2,800 megabytes a second. So it's not as fast as an internal drive on a studio, but it's very, very fast. And so I can throw a lot of big files.
My main data drive on my studio. Yeah.
And so it is just, we hadn't made it a pick. It's a USB-C or Thunderbolt.
Do you use Apple RAID? It comes with the OWC's RAID.
I think I use the OWC RAID.
Soft RAID, yeah.
Yeah, soft RAID, because I just want to go from computer to computer and not think about it.
Right.
And so, and it is super reliable. I've used these for 4 years, I think, 3 or 4 years. And I've got a couple of them. And it's just a really great to, you come back with a bunch of camera files and I just throw them all on here.
Yep.
Or even on site because it's so small and and it's fast. It's a big deal when I'm on site to be able to clear all the drives as fast as possible. And when you combine this with like a Blackmagic dock, you can put 4 of them in, start transferring, go back to what you were doing, and then get to editing. And I keep all my files, like I'll put all my directories and everything else on it. And then I just move it around, and it's great. The enclosure itself is like $200 or $300. It's not very expensive. And then you just buy the NVMe's you want. That you can buy them from OWC. They check their memory really well, but you can put other things in there as well. It's great.
Yeah. I highly recommend it. The only thing negative is after a couple of years, the fan's starting to make noise, starting to rattle. I'm sure I can open it up and replace it. But
I haven't had that problem, but but I
just hit it. It stops.
Just tap it. Yeah,
probably not
recommended. Screw up the drive. It's all memory. So
that's the thing. It's SSDs. I don't care.
Yeah.
Very good recommendation. The OWC Express 4 M2 for 4 NVMe M.2 SSD slots. Alex Lindsay is at officehours.global. What are you doing these days? Every morning, something exciting.
We were talking about LTX Studio today. We were talking, we're doing a lot of AI, discussion of AI. We talked about AI in enterprise yesterday. LTX Studio is an AI video. But we're trying to keep everybody up to speed on those things. But a very consistently wide range of subjects. We're going to talk about how audio is done for Carnival tomorrow in
mobile Carnival music. I love it.
So it's how they manage the audio on the floats.
Floats, they're moving.
So we have someone I believe from Trinidad or whatever that's going to come on and talk about what it takes to put those things together. But also infrastructural. Information security systems is on Friday, so it's different every day, and we now have an extra hours because we didn't have enough shows, and that's on Monday nights, and Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's just more relaxed version of office hours mostly, and then but that's where we're building all of our cloud infrastructure. So we're using Vector to do that show there, and we had great. Really great gray matter last week with Michael Krasny. Kelly Corrigan, who is she's an interviewer on PBS as well as a New York Times bestselling author, and I can just listen to that woman talk all day. She's one of those people that just tells great stories and is very authentic and just talks about what she talks about, and just so it was a really great interview. I think it just came out this morning, so I'd highly recommend checking it out.
Very good. That's at graymatter.show. Andy, WGBH in Boston is a call-in.
Yes. Week from Thursday, go to WGBHnews.org to stream it live or later.
Nice. Thank you, Mr. Anatko. The library's nice. I think it's a good spot for you.
It's
fiber, that's Ethernet, it's everything a boy could want.
Also, the table here is not pre-cluttered with all of my garbage.
Always a good thing. Always a good thing. Jason Snell, 6colors.com. Of course, you'll have the 6-color graphs later this week.
So many.
After Apple's earnings call, and we'll talk about that next Tuesday. What else is going on in Snell land?
I mean, it's that and the betas and Apple Intelligence and trying to work on that. We'll cover it all on 6colors.com. It'll be a busy week. We were all Dan Morin and I were both out last week, so 6 Colors was quiet, and now we're revving the engine back up, and going to be a busy August, I think.
Lots of podcasts too at 6colors.com/Jason.
Yep.
Thank you, Jason. Great to have you here.
Good to be back.
Next week, our last Mac Break Weekly in the studio. We'll say farewell to the Brick House studios. We move over to the attic studio. We'll also say farewell to our dear... I said east side, didn't I? Oh, it's not the Brick House. It's the east side. There are bricks, but it's not made of bricks like the Brick House was. We'll also be saying farewell to our beloved studio manager. Hey, Mr. John. Hey, Selenina, who is retiring for the second time. He retired to come to work here. And now, 15 years later, he's finally decided, You should really, really retire, and you're going to go fishing, right? No. Watch Humphreys McGee all year round. That's the dream. We love you, John, and it will be very, very hard to come to work every day knowing that you will not be here. John will be here for the remaining 12 days, and then it's off to bigger and better things. Thank you all for joining us, especially thanks to our club members who make this show and all that we do here possible. One of the reasons we're shutting down the studio is because of its great expense. We don't want to spend that money. We want to spend your money wisely creating content. If you'd like to join the club, we'd love to have you. twit.tv/clubtwit. We do this show and we're going to continue to do it on Tuesday mornings, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I might even be on time. That'll be a novel thing. 1800 UTC. You can watch us live on many, many platforms now. Thanks to Restream, we are not just on YouTube. We're in the Discord for club members. We're on youtube.com/twit/live, twitch.tv/twit. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, x.com, and Kick. So there are many, many ways you can watch us live. But if you don't want to, if you want to watch at your leisure, we invite you to join the website, twit.tv/mbw. You can download this show or any of our previous shows directly from the website. There is a YouTube channel dedicated to the video of MacBreak Weekly. That's available to all. Probably the best thing to do is subscribe in your favorite podcast player. That way you'll get it automatically. As long as you listen. If you stop listening, most podcast players stop downloading. So keep listening, and we'll see you next time. But as I have said for so many years, it is time once again to say, get back to work, because break time is over. We'll see you next week.